Does WWE have some shocking plans for John Cena's final match, which we know will take place in December on Saturday night's main event? That match will take place in Washington, D.C., not in Boston, which I know everyone has talked about over the past little bits as to the surprise surrounding that. But there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors this week regarding a potential John Cena opponent. We know it's not going to be AJ Styles because those two are now going to face off at Crown Jewel coming up in a couple weeks. It's good to see that because that feels like one of those matches that WWE may have left on the table had they not revisited John Cena versus AJ Styles. But of course, there have been many long-time sort of rivals for John Cena that either Cena's already faced this year and or could potentially face in his final match. And one of those names has been speculated and rumored a lot this week. People are trying to connect the dots as to whether we could possibly see, one more time, John Cena versus Edge. And yes, Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge, now does work for AEW. I have not watched this week's AEW Dynamite. I'm always a little behind on AEW, whereas with WWE, I'm usually caught up each week. But with that, there was apparently a segment where Adam Copeland is leaving. They did some sort of, vignette with him and Christian Cage. And so everyone was wondering, wait a second, does this mean he's leaving AEW for good? He's headed back to WWE to face Cena? Or is AEW allowing him the opportunity to go face Cena in this one-off type match? AEW and WWE working together? Is that a real possibility in 2025? Well, according to a report from Mike Johnson over at PW Insider, that is not a realistic possibility to do John Cena and Edge one more time because it sounds like Edge is going off to film a TV series versus actually going to film a TV show for WWE at Saturday night's main event in a match against John Cena. But it is something where I think if you look at the likelihood of whether that was ever going to be a possibility, these contracts are there, right? And I think when you look at it, I know people will bring up, Chris Jericho. They had sort of the one-off appearance that he had a while back, in WWE when he was still in AEW, but that was more of an on-screen type thing, right? It's a video type scenario versus an actual match, and that's a much different animal. And Edge did pay tribute to John Cena, just as Cena had done to Edge in his most recent match when they did the tag team match at All Out. And so you're thinking that was kind of it between them. You're not ever going to get these two back together. Contractually, it doesn't seem like it's a realistic possibility. So, according to at least this report, it seems unlikely that it will be John Cena versus Edge. But that does still open up many questions as to who is going to be the final opponent for John Cena. And before we get into what still has been my popular pick for the long time now, I do want to just quickly revisit the Cena versus Edge thing because I think you could certainly argue, if you're talking about best John Cena rivalry of all time throughout his WWE career, there may be a lot of people who point to CM Punk. There may be some people that point to Brock Lesnar. I would not with Lesnar. I would put Punk in there without question. There are many, I think, other potential candidates you could kind of work with Randy Orton, of course, and all of that. But I think in terms of pure enjoyment, pure entertainment, the feud between John Cena and Edge, I think, is probably at the top for me. The one between Cena and Punk was a little more short-term, where it felt like Cena and Edge, they had kind of that peak where, you had these two kind of going up against each other for the biggest prize in the game at the time, right? But I think just the way they did it at the time, and of course you had, Edge had turned heel and the New Year's Revolution thing where he cashed in, the first big Money in the Bank cash in and all of that. I think it was such a memorable feud that I can understand why a lot of fans would want to see that as John Cena's final match. They were so good together. I think the chemistry was just terrific between those two. So I'd love to see it. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen. But the one I would like to see now, and it's really only two choices for me at this point. And I've seen a lot of people, hey, we're about to hit October, right? We know we're getting the AJ Styles match, so it's not going to be Styles. But we are now at a point where that list is shrinking. And I hope it's not a rematch with Brock Lesnar. I really don't think that's going to happen. And which, to me, and I know we didn't do anything after WrestlePalooza. I was traveling and all of that. But I just, I don't even know what to say about how things went at WrestlePalooza in that match. I think it was just not good. And so I hope we're not getting a rematch between John Cena and Brock Lesnar. I really, really hope that. But if you're looking at the best options, I think it's still down to two for me. And it's Gunther, because I've mentioned before, sports entertainment versus professional wrestling. I still like that theme for John Cena's final match. You can do it in DC. If they want to go full on, Rocky with America versus, whatever with Gunther's Drago, maybe they could do that. It's in Washington, D.C. Why not, right? Patriotism, all this other stuff that they could play into. But that's one that I think that would make a lot of sense. It would be a huge match. It would be a huge moment, I think, to sort of put Gunther in that position to where he's the guy that can use that as fuel, as a top heel for the rest of his career. But I think someone else that could use it possibly even better is Drew McIntyre. And I'm going to keep going back to Drew here, even though, again, WrestlePalooza I feel like plays into this. Drew just losing clean as a whistle to Cody and WrestlePalooza was not exactly what I thought it would be. I told you guys in the predictions we did, I thought they could do something a little bit different with that match. Could they do the shocking upset? And then when we found out that it was going to be the main event, I was thinking, something's up here. They may actually, I don't know if Drew wins the title, but they may do something big. It wasn't any of that. It was just a simple, basic match, and Cody won, and that was it. So I think, you kind of look at that, too, and wonder, does that really set Drew up for a lot of success to be the final opponent for Cena? So I don't know, and I think it's going to be one where it sounds like, too, I think there was a report out there that we may find out, the details on Cena's last match very, very soon. And if that's the case, I don't know that they're just going to reveal the opponent. If you're looking at alternative ways they could do this, maybe you don't even announce an opponent. Because what sells the match itself is the fact that it's John Cena's final match. You don't necessarily have to sell it on the opponent. And so I do wonder, could they do something like that where it's basically an open challenge, right? Where all of a sudden it's just the mystery and the suspense is what draws you to it, other than just the fact that it's, a Legends final match in WWE. But maybe that's another aspect. They're thinking, let's just keep it a mystery until the actual show. And then we find out, the music hits, it's that huge moment, the suspense is built, to the pinnacle here, and boom, somebody comes out. Possibility, I suppose, if you wanted to, again, kind of heighten the suspense leading up to it. Because, if you announce John Cena versus Drew McIntyre, if you announce John Cena versus Gunther, I mean, it's big, but is it bigger than the draw of the mystery? And that's what I'm not sure of. Because, too, when you do those kind of things, you're always going to have the situation where people in their minds are going to build up the biggest possible option, right? Is it The Rock? Is it Stone Cold Steve Austin? Like, all of these things. And so, if it's not one of them, then whoever it is feels like a letdown. So that's something else you run into if you leave it kind of open-ended and you don't announce an opponent officially for Cena. So, any way they do it, I think it's hard to screw this up. I don't know that this has been the smoothest retirement tour, which we thought could be kind of a layup for WWE this year. It clearly has not been for all the reasons we've discussed. But if they're going to AJ Styles now, Cena does not have many matches left. But I think, your opponent's list has gotten smaller and smaller now. And to me, Drew McIntyre, Gunther, two of your best options. But there could be someone we're not even thinking of that's still out there. Will it be Edge? It doesn't sound like it, but you never say never, right, in professional wrestling. I've also seen some people suggest a gauntlet match. That was one of the ones, I think, if you looked at some of the more popular posts on X and other things, like just have Cena reel off all kinds of opponents. Just bring out, past, present, future, all these sort of things. The thing about that to me is like, well, we've already kind of seen how that could play out in terms of you don't really need to revisit CM Punk. You don't need to revisit Randy Orton and so forth, right? He's already had those last time sort of matches that he doesn't need to just have opponent after opponent come in. And I don't know that does John Cena any favors either if you're doing some kind of gauntlet setting. So I still like the idea of if the name is big enough and it does feel like a unique type match, which it's going to be just for the atmosphere and the spectacle of it all, if it feels that way, then I think you announce it ahead of time, right? You announce the opponent. But if you do want to play into, again, the mystery and the suspense and all that, then I don't think it's necessary because it's John Cena's final match. People are going to tune in no matter what, but you could have an added little wrinkle to where, we know it's John Cena's final match, but who's it going to be against? That's an interesting question. WWE likes surprises and all that kind of stuff. The moments, right? We've always said it's about the moments in WWE. It would be a big moment if somebody comes out unexpectedly, or again, there's lots of ways you could do it. So that's kind of my thinking right now. And, again, it sounds like we're going to find out pretty soon as to what direction we're headed in with John Cena. And I'm curious to know what you guys think. How do you see this whole thing playing out with John Cena? Do you think we're going to find out who the opponent is ahead of time? Will they keep it, kind of in the dark here heading into Saturday night's main event? What do you think is going to happen? Who should be the final opponent in John Cena's final match in WWE? Always appreciate your feedback. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. Give me your thoughts. Who is John Cena going to face at Saturday night's main event in his final WWE match?